Good evening, everybody. My name is Scotty Brink, and I'd like to take a moment to share a few facts and thoughts about one of my best friends in the world, and that would be Joe Sullivan. Now, those of us who know Joe know that he's one of the best guys in the world. He's also one of those rare individuals who has literally done it all in this business, and he's done it all very, very well. After paying his dues in Manchester and in Tullahoma and a couple stopovers down in Alabama, Joe scored a pretty good job in Knoxville, WKGN, owned by Mooney Broadcasting. In less than a year, they made him program director, which quickly proved to be a very wise choice on Mooney's part because with Joe at the helm, WKGN rose rapidly to number one in Knoxville. Well, Mooney obviously liked their newfound success in Knoxville, so in the summer of '68, they did another really smart thing and transferred Joe to WMAK here in Nashville.
The Mooney Broadcasting Corporation, WMAK, Nashville.
Smart guy that he is, Joe set forth to put together his dream team of air talent. This dream team of Joe's consisted of what would become some of the best and most legendary jocks ever to grace the Nashville airwaves. I'm talking about Dick Kent, Alan Dennis, Gary Beatty, also known as Gary Douglas. There was the dulcet voice of John Young, a very young Mike Bohan, and of course that nighttime kid, that brash kid who became one of the biggest names in radio, ultimately, and still is, Scott Shannon.
Back to the early days of my career when I arrived in Nashville, Tennessee as Super Shan, your ever-loving leader on the radio. I did 7 to midnight, and that's where I met Joe Sullivan. He was a different kind of program director. He never got upset. He didn't scream and holler and say, you're going to do it my way. This is the right way. This is what they do in New York. This is what they do in Los Angeles. He had a different way of going about things. He thought about it. He was open to other people's ideas. And believe me, I had a lot of them. Just like John Young had a lot of them. But I never really saw him upset. I saw him get pretty red a couple of times after I deviated from the format at night, but he was just a different kind of program director. I used to call him Cool Hand Luke because he was always thinking and he never rushed into anything. He always gave it a lot of thought. And I just want to take this opportunity to say, welcome to the Tennessee Radio Hall of Fame, Joe Sullivan, my Cool Hand Luke.
Anyway, with Joe in the captain's chair, the dream team quickly sailed on to number one. And then Mooney Broadcasting did another smart thing. They made Joe their group PD. Now let's fast forward a couple of years. With the experience, the reputation, and the wisdom he gained through his series of radio successes, Joe was now ready to expand his professional horizons. So he formed a company, and he called it Sound 70 Productions. Now, for those of us who weren't around back in the day, during the 70s and 80s, Sound 70 was the premier concert promoter throughout the Mid-South. Before long, Joe's gifted eye and ear, and his love for talented people, and the confidence those people had in him, added the not always easy, but sometimes very rewarding role of talent manager to Joe's credentials. He took over management of Charlie Daniels, and by virtue of that, created the annual event nobody wanted to miss, the Volunteer Jam. Now there was a show. Some of the other artists on Joe's management roster, Dobie Gray, Wet Willie, Bobby Bare, Nicolette Larson, Dickie Betts, even Wolfman Jack, just to name several. I'd like to add that while Joe was keeping all those plates spinning, he also sat on the CMA board for 16 years. Always a busy, focused, and very much valued guy. Later on, Joe made the decision to move to Missouri and do something new. And there he became one of the great driving forces in making Branson one of America's best-known live entertainment destinations. Like everything else he had always done, Sullivan's shows were always as perfect as possible in every way. And I mean down to the last detail. It was a joy to watch him work. Joe Sullivan, a producer, a promoter, a programmer, and always a perfectionist. Joe Sullivan spent his career doing exactly what he most loved doing, bringing out the best in people around him, creating the best in live production, helping really good talent become really great talent, and programming some of the best radio the Volunteer State has ever known.
Good morning on 1300 WMAK.
Well, hello there. I'm Joe Sullivan. I'll be here till 12 o'clock noon today playing the hits for you from WMAK and that Super Hit Survey. This is Sammy Davis Jr.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join us in welcoming to a most deserved place in the Tennessee Radio Hall of Fame, my very dear friend and yours, Joe Sullivan.